What's one thing that made you say never fricking again? And why? Attempting to catch my dog's it in the bag rather than picking it up from the ground. Seemed like a good idea. Dog sharded up my arm. Had a long walk back home through my neighborhood covered in it. Never again. Yeah. Your dog probably thought it was weird and said never again as well. Purchased a bag of 150 mint Mentos as a study snack. Got stuck into an assignment and somehow ate the entire bag over a 12-hour period. Next day my partner and I walked our dogs down to a cafe. Stomach becomes sore while we drink our coffee. I look to the toilet, but it's a busy cafe with a single toilet. Figure I'll just wait to do my business back home. About a half-hour walk away. As we start walking back I begin to sweat. Cramps become unbearable. Give my partner the dog lead and tell her I need to run. She doesn't know what's going on. I start sprinting, which then makes the stomach cramps so much worse. Realize I'm not going to make it. Almost crying from the stomach cramps. See a bush? Can't hold it. Pull pants down. Don't quite succeed. It everywhere. Bush isn't concealed. Other dog walkers walk past and dog runs up. Mortified. Still can't stop eating. Partner sees me. My pug happy to see me. Runs straight up and into my Mentos diarrhea. Haven't eaten Mentos ever again. It's a fun story now, but God did the day suck. Partner loves to bring it up at dinner parties. Does your partner now call you the fresh baker? Yesterday I was in a hurry and not being very safe and put a 1.4 inches drill bit through my hand. Could have been 100% avoided by taking even the slightest of safety precautions, but I was frustrated and rushing to finish. Never again will I not take the simple moment to do it correctly. How is your hand? Did you have to go to the hospital? Yeah. I was rushed to the hospital. I had drilled into the bone and it was the only thing that stopped it going all the way through the other side of my hand. I got lucky and didn't do any damage to the nerves, but they had to plug the hole before they could stitch it up. When I was 4 years old my dad slipped and sawed off 4 of his fingers. I was the only one there at the time so I had to put them in a baggie with ice and hang onto them. That was a bit traumatizing. I know someone will ask, so yes, they reattached his fingers and he has partial control over them. He would have had more, but he broke them while they were healing when his hand got slammed in a door. Sounds like the universe doesn't want your dad to have fingers. Getting an endometrial biopsy. Worst pain of my life. If I ever get cancer they can just take the whole damn uterus out. I'm not going through that again without anesthesia. Cervical colposcopy here. My mom had to help me get to the car afterwards. I was white as a sheet. They said it wouldn't hurt. That was a lie. Oddly the subsequent cryosurgery hurt much less. They lied to me too. This won't hurt a bit. AKA hang on for dear freaking life. I screamed and the doctor and nurse looked at me like I was being dramatic. Geez. Mine was laser ablation. Super easy peasy. No pain whatsoever. Just burnt flesh. TMI for you too. I just want to let everyone know on this thread that you can request both a topical numbing agent and an injectable one in your cervix before your biopsy. I find that so often with female procedures we are expected to endure pain that is totally unnecessary. Talk to your MD. Explain your terrible experience. There is no reason you shouldn't be comfortable. The doctor tried the first time for about 10 minutes of me crying and trying to relax, then sent me home and gave me a prescription for something to soften my cervix and told me to take 1,000 milligrams of Advil a few hours before I came back in. Followed the order. Came back in for another 5 minutes of torture, at which point she said I've got an iron cervix and they'll just try to get the biopsy when I'm out while they am of the cyst. Why wasn't that the first option? I had my gallbladder removed after a gallstone. I thought I was having a heart attack and called an ambulance. While I waited I started to arrange all of my finances for my wife. The hospital ran a zillion tests, told me it was a gallstone, and the only real solution was to remove the whole gallbladder if it came back. If it came back? Yep. Frick that shut. I told the doctor I would never go through that pain again and he could schedule me for surgery then and there. I've had women tell me the pain from a gallstone lodged in the duct is worse than childbirth and I believe them. No way was I going through that again. I did the same thing when I got told I had gallstones. I told the ER to go ahead and set me up for surgery, because I was not leaving to go through that again. Later that day it was out since the surgeon agreed with me. It's not an if, but when it comes back, no regrets removing it. Alcohol and cocaine. Almost ruined my life. Started drinking at 16. Started doing coke at 26, and took till I was damn near 41 to quit. Dumped my last baggie of blowout beside my garage 23 years ago and haven't touched it since. Hello 63. 64-year-old Redditor. Hello fellow Redditor. Gonna be 64 in November. A stack of age. A stack of experience. Making friends with people because you feel bad for them. Be nice, but no more than that is required. Pity is no reason to start a friendship and it never turns out well. Neither for them nor for you. Pity is no reason to start a friendship or a relationship. How do I delete someone else's comment before my girlfriend sees it? My ex, we were giving long distance a shot. It was an on and off relationship for like 3 years. I traveled 18 hours to see him only to find out he had been cheating on me and no one from his circle even knew I existed. I cried for a straight 18 hours bus ride back home. Never freaking again. I am in a relationship that started as a doctor and I think that waiting longer than 1 year is just pointless. Now we live together and I can't imagine not having all that time together. When I was like 11 I had some friends, the kids that lived next door, over and we were just hanging out, playing video games all night. My mom ordered Papa John's for us. We tore the pizza up like the ravenous savages we were and continued gaming. That night the boy stayed over while his sisters and little brother went back home. We go to bed that night and at some point one of us, can't remember who, began to throw up, which woke the other one up. My mom rushes in and helps clean up the mess. Once the vomiting stops we go back to bed. But then before long ITD start again, just like before. Sometimes I was first, sometimes it was him. Sometimes we could get to the bathroom on time, sometimes we couldn't. My mother, the saint of a woman she is, cleaned up all of that vomit. Apparently things were no better at their house. To this day some 15 years later I refuse to eat Papa John's. I'm sure it was just a one-time thing, but once was enough. Same thing happened to me. Though it was KFC, I refused to eat it again after being the sickest I've ever been. Throwing up for 4 days straight. A few years later I was out with a friend and they wanted KFC so I decided that it's unlikely to happen again and had some. The worst decision. I again was so sick. I'll never ever eat it again. Similar story, but with Subway. Will never freaking eat there again. I felt like I was never going to leave my bathroom because of how much I was vomiting. I didn't even realize I could vomit as much as I did. Peppermint essential oil. Why? My darling spouse read online you could use it on lady bits to provide a tingling sensation. Decided to do so to me. Didn't read the bit about majorly diluting it first. The result? The sensation of 1000 fire ants biting my most intimate parts while simultaneously being submerged in lava. And since it's an oil, washing it off did jacket. I sobbed in a half-full bathtub, whilst rubbing my cooch with a towel doused in vegetable oil. The remedy, according to the internet, 0 out of 10 do not recommend. Never again. Oh God. You've reminded me of when I was about 17 I had a boyfriend who was a bit older, but also a complete freaking idiot. One day he offers me a full body massage and I'm like sweet. As he's doing it he tells me he's going to use tiger balm instead of oil. I asked what that was and he told me it's what they use for massage in his culture. He's Chinese. I'm European. I was like okay whatever. Next minute, I had that same sensation over my entire body, including my lady parts. Had an hour-long shower and I was still suffering. Chinese people do not put tiger balm all over their bodies. This guy used to say and do all sorts of dumb and then would pretend it was Chinese culture to avoid looking like an idiot. 668 comments. Half Asian, half Kiwi here. I used to get fixed Vaporub stuck up nose whenever it was blocked when I was kid. We ran out one day. Asian dad says, "Don't worry, tiger balm is even better," and proceeded to whack that up my nose. I guarantee you've never seen a faster 6-year-old in your life. Amniocentesis. Having a giant needle stuck through my pregnant belly and being dug around to get a sample triggered my fight. Flight and I was sweating so much from the intensity. I didn't watch while they did it, but my mother-in-law was there and started crying while they were digging around. She held my hand, looked at me with tears in her eyes and tried to calmly say it's okay, you're okay. I still have nightmares about it 10 years later. Digging around? What the frick? I think you got a particularly terrible amnio person. I don't even remember it beyond being nervous going in. I actually forgot I'd had one till I read this. God. Awful. So sorry that was your experience. Living with a couple. Roommates suck in general, but 3 times in my life I split an apartment with a couple and it was awkward at best, and truly miserable when they fought. I currently live with a couple myself and it's my first time and it freaking sucks. I never want to do this again, especially during quarantine. Forget about it. Same here. Housemate's girlfriend is here 24/7 without any form of agreement, and it is driving me insane. Uh-oh. Don't tell me you fell for the trick. I knew two girls that were the tightest of friends from junior high through high school. Afterwards they couldn't wait to be roommates. A year afterwards they didn't even speak to each other and never did again. What happened? They agreed to split the rent and utilities 50-50. Not too long after moving in, Girl A decided to move her boyfriend in and let him stay in her room. Girl B told her if 3 people were going to be staying there, all expenses should then be split 3 ways. Girl A didn't see it that way. Her boyfriend was staying in her half of the apartment, therefore the expenses should only be split 2 ways. I remember Girl A never was the fluffiest squirrel in the tree, and I saw where she got it from, because all her relatives thought she made perfect sense and they sided with her. Alright, this is the exact situation I'm in right now. It was always a plan that I would end up getting an apartment with my best friend and it'd be cool and all. Fast forward to last January, his girlfriend only needs 1 semester to go to graduate and wants to stay here for this fall semester. So I agreed to split the rent 50% for me and 50% for them both, because money's tight on her end and I'm very fortunate to have a family that can support me during times like this. Suddenly she wants to stay for the full 14 months paying 25% rent. Started a huge fight about what's fair and what's not. Anyways, won't do this again unless I have my girlfriend with me on board too as backup. Also, would you / anyone have tips, tricks with handle a roommate situation like that? Sorry about the big block of text. Driving through an intersection immediately upon my light changing to green. Some AOL ran red one day and almost T-boned me on the driver's side. Never again. I always wait for a few seconds before I start driving through an intersection, longer if there's a blind corner. If you ride a motorbike, always wait a few seconds. The number of twats who jump lights because they don't see the bike straight away is scary. Working retail. I think it's something every young person should do. Once, people suck. Especially with our bully culture of the customer is always right. I heard the customer is always right really just means that the market will show who has the right ideas by who succeeds. That was the old meaning of the phrase. Now it's been hijacked and bastardized. I think every older person who has never done it should do it too. They're often the worst. Meth. I was a hardcore amphetamine pill addict and said frick it one night and smoked a load of meth. I was up for 2 or 3 days. By the last day I was well into psychosis and left town. Stayed in a hotel room for a few days to make sure I didn't become a meth addict and to evaluate what the frick I was doing with my life. I didn't stop the pills immediately, but I'm never fricking doing meth again. I tried meth once. I never picked it up again because of how badly it scared me. Because it was that good. And I didn't even smoke it. I snorted some and my immediate thought was, and I know why people get hooked. I felt like Superman. I was smarter, stronger, faster, etc. I could conquer all of my problems. Then my second thought was, how can I get more? And that scared me. I never touched it again. Opiates are just as dangerous, but for a slightly different reason. That was like being wrapped in the warmest, dizziest blanket where none of your problems exist and you can ignore them forever as long as you can get more. I may enjoy drugs, but I refuse to touch either of those. Those will lead you to ruining your life fast. Reminds me of 70s child star Danny Bonaduce. After the jobs dried up in the 80s he hit hard times and started doing pills and coke. After a while of doing that someone handed him a crack pipe. As he puts it, I took a big hit and exhaled. Before all the smoke had really even left my lungs I turned to my friend and said, how much do you think we can sell my card for? On March 9, 1990, he was arrested while attempting to buy cocaine in Daytona Beach, Florida. Bonaduce was there to host an event for D.A.R.E. an anti-drug campaign aimed at children. That's a hell of an addiction if you ask me. Open up my home to help someone. She ended up being a manipulative, miserable cuss of a person who made my and my children's lives miserable. My husband, now ex, refused to see beyond her PP and ignored his own kids' pleas for help. Kids and I moved out and he's now miserable and alone with no relationship with his kids. Aunt left him at the first sign of his financial troubles. My mother let a homeless woman and her boyfriend move into her and my dad's house, because the woman had just had a baby, which had immediately been taken by the state. Whoops. The woman got a hold of my mom's credit card information and started making purchases with it. When my mom found out, she couldn't kick them out of the house, because they'd already been there for a month and were protected by tenant laws. My mom had to go to court to get an eviction process started. Meanwhile, there they were, still living in the house, and would have probably continued to steal from my mom if she hadn't canceled all her cards immediately. So yeah, hard lesson to learn. But don't let near strangers move into your house. Even if to help them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and leave a comment which story you liked the most. Subscribe and hit the bell notification for updates on our latest videos. And don't forget to check the links in the description box for more awesome content.